Myself, Dr. Ratnakar Rai, Assistant Professor Political Science, Odisha State University at Sambalpur. Today we will be discussing about one of the great thinkers of Indian political thought, Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. And Sri Aurobindo Ghosh is taken off because of the reason that he is a political theorist, he is a spiritual nationalist, he is a great literary figure, and at the same time he has pointed out certain things which have been proved true at this age of globalization when we are thinking of having a global village. And in this regard, taking Sri Aurobindo Ghosh to you, I can say that Sri Aurobindo Ghosh took his birth in 1872, died in 1950, and during the 78 years, only 5 years have been spent in politics. But his political ideas during the 5 years is so important, is so pragmatic, and is so relevant that he is still remembered even after his death, even after so many years of his death. And this particular man is a peculiar figure because his father wanted him to be taught in Western style of education, and he was particularly trained in Western culture. But this man devoted himself to the cause of Indian nationalism, and his brand of nationalism is known as spiritual nationalism. And this particular man is a man who is an extremist, no doubt, and he belongs to that particular age, diverting himself from the age of moderates, belonging to the age of Gokhale, belonging to the age of Surendranath Banerjee, etc. And he paved the path for Mahatma Gandhi. Even though Mahatma Gandhi is a moderate, Mahatma Gandhi stressed upon the concept of passive nationalism, passive resistance, and that particular concept was coined by Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. And in this particular context, I can say that it was Rabindranath Tagore who once said that world will come to know the essence of India through the writings of Sri Aurobindo. The entire world will come to know about India because of the cultural values of India. And these cultural values will be reflected in the writings of Sri Aurobindo, and it was pointed out by Sri Rabindranath Tagore, which has been proved true, because when India is claiming to be not only an emerging power, it has already an immersed power in the present global world. And in this context, I can say that when in the G20 conference, we are talking about one earth, we are talking about one family, we are talking about one future. In the last conference at Delhi in 2023, it was nothing but the ideology of Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. And in Sri Aurobindo Ghosh's political philosophy, human unity counts a lot, and human unity is completely reflected in those words which has been reflected in the Delhi Declaration of G20. And therefore, I can say that Aurobindo Ghosh is not an outdated political concept, political thinker. Rather, he is so pragmatic. Rather, his political ideology is so adjustive to the modern world that modern world is thinking in terms of having a global village in his line of thought. And he is regarded as a prophet of Indian nationalism, and he wanted a particular concept that Indian nationalism should not only be a materialistic one, following the path of the Western concept, rather Indian nationalism should be a spiritual one. And all these things have been brought through the English newspaper Vande Mataram, a revolutionary ideology of Sri Aurobindo came to the limelight, being published in Bengali weekly Jugantar, and also by the particular organization established by Sri Aurobindo, that is Anushrana Samiti. And all these things were there to challenge the British government, and he was the pioneer of the motivation against the partition of Bengal, which was made in 1905. And his political career started in 1905, ended in 1910, and within the span of only 5 years, he made his presence politically felt, and his political thought is still relevant today. And in 1905's partition of Bengal movement, he patronized the concept of boycott, which was adopted as a technique of non-cooperation during 1920 revolution 1920 non-cooperation movement of Gandhiji. This was a particular concept, boycott, and this boycott and Swadeshi, these two concepts, which were patronized by Aurobindo Ghosh in 1905, particularly in the context of the partition of Bengal, those two things have been adopted by Mahatma Gandhi. He paved the path for Gandhian thought, and Gandhian thought was greatly benefited with his contributions, the concept of passive resistance, the concept of Swadeshi, the concept of Swaraj, the concept of boycott. And all these things took its birth, took their origin from the soil of the political thought of Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. And during the particular period of 1905 to 1906, and he, in the Indian National Congress, the extremists, they took up the leadership and they compelled the Congress organization, political party. And in this context, I can say that the Alipur bomb case of 1906, in which he was arrested and he was put behind the bar for long 1 year, and he got free after 1908, and then he thought of switching over to spiritualism, and he decided to go to leave the British India, take shelter under the French colony of Pondicherry, which is now known as Puducherry. And in 1910, when he left for Puducherry, he thought of spiritual nationalism, which got materialized in 1926 with the establishment of Sri Aurobindo Ashram at Puducherry. And the basic concept behind the Sri Aurobindo Ashram was education, integral education, Purnanga Sikkha, and integral yoga, Purnanga yoga. And in these two concepts, integral yoga is much ahead of the Patanjali yoga concept of today, which we practice in our day-to-day life, that is more relevant, and that is a scientific system where the physical, emotional, intellectual and spiritual bonding is made possible. And in this context, I can say that the main objective of his teaching was to increase the level of consciousness of the people, and thereby they can fight for Swaraj, they can fight for Swadeshi, and Swadeshi is the particular concept through which we can get the idea of self-realization, and self-confidence can be built off on that line. And we can say that the concept of Western influence cannot be minused, the impact of Western influence cannot be minused, but at the same time, materialism and spiritualism should be merged together. And that was made possible with the concept of spiritual nationalism of Sri Aurobindo, where he stressed that inner strength leads to outer freedom. That means when spiritual nationalism is needed, that is possible only through the inner strength and the spiritual power in order to create a strong and independent nation. And now we feel that how that particular concept is important in the context of the human unity. When there was, when after the Second World War, we are not in favor of having any war, because the destruction of the human civilization can be possible at any moment if we will go for war. And balance of power has been transformed into the balance of terror. And the terror can be minused, the terror can be minimized, the terror can be humanly managed with the spiritual transformation of individuals, which was outlined by Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. And in this context, we can also say that the concept of non-violence and spiritual power is very important. That was one of the political goals, and that was one of the political technique also. And he wanted a strong India, no doubt, but at the same time, strong India is not against human unity. Strong India is for the freedom of the individuals throughout the globe. Pura Prithvi Sara, Kemti Lokamane Rahipari, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This was the ideology, this was the principle which was propagated by Sri Aurobindo, and world is now thinking, and to have the concept of India has already emerged as a soft power. We may not be considered as a military power. India has emerged as a soft power, and globally there is no challenge to the concept of the soft power hegemony of India. And that concept was outlined during those days, long years back, when Sri Aurobindo was outlined his ideology, political ideas. He was a visionary of political harmony and unity. He was a man who was, I can say, that he was a synthesizer. He synthesizes the Eastern philosophy with Western philosophy. He synthesizes materialism with spiritualism. He synthesizes the concept of modernism, principle of moderation with the principle of extremism. So he is regarded as a teacher of, a propagator of, a preacher of the concept that is synthesizer. And in this context, we can also say that he has written many articles, and this particular title implies how he was pragmatic and how he was inspiring and injecting the idea of nationalism in the minds and souls of individuals, young individuals in India. He was an extremist like them, but he is different from them. He is a type by himself. And we also believe that the impact of Sri Aurobindo on national consciousness, that the cultural resurgence of world is possible only through the leadership of India. The integration of the East and West is possible because of the leadership of India. Education for self-reliance can be advocated only through the system of the traditional educational system, propagating the human values, preparing the ground for the cultural values like love, sacrifice, sympathy, etc. And unity and diversity, which is a salad bowl concept, which is regarded as a salad bowl concept in the age of multiculturalism, it has its seeds in the political thought of Sri Aurobindo. Unity in diversity, salad bowl concept. As in salad, we find the different ingredients, they maintain their identity, but still then a new concept of salad comes and becomes palatable. Spiritual activism is the concept which was greatly stressed by Sri Aurobindo. Spiritual activism that inspired many Indians to participate in socio-political movements. And without the participation of the mass in the social political movements, without the transformation of the political parties into mass political organizations, it would not have been a possibility to get independence in 47. The contemporary relevance of Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, we can say in that regard that integral nationalism, a new concept, spiritual nationalism, he has also pointed out the concept of integral nationalism. And integral nationalism is nothing but a contribution of Sri Aurobindo and indigenously built up by Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. And in that way, he has fostered a concept of harmony and inclusive governance, which is a modern concept of today. And promote the welfare of all, that was behind his political philosophy, and that inspired Gandhiji to have his concept of Sarvodaya against the traditional concept of utilitarianism, where the benefit for the majority is superseded by the concept of benefit for all. And in this regard, we can also say that sustainable development is a modern concept, no doubt. But this concept of sustainable development, eco-friendly policies, and promotion of the policy of renewable energy, and giving priority to environmental conservation, these are modern concepts, but these concepts also have their seeds in the political ideas of Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. And with this we can say, at the end we can say that this political man, Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, becoming a spiritual preacher, because of his stress on spiritualism, is treated as a leader who has pointed out that a day will come when India will be the Guru of the nation. And that concept, that dream of Sri Aurobindo, that ideology of Sri Aurobindo is going to be fulfilled. That India has become the Guru of the nation. India has been accepted as a Guru. India has become the leader of the non-aligned group, which has more than 120 members at the present moment, although in the groups like NATO or in the last group in the X group, which was WhatsApp Pact group, 26, 25 members were there. But in the non-aligned groups where India is the leader, the 120 or more than that, the members are there. And in that context, we can say that ethical leadership of India has been accepted. Ethical leadership of India has been given importance. And with this, we'll come to the end of our discussion, that this supramental consciousness promised by Sri Aurobindo will transform the world and allow the concept of globalization to realize its final goal, that is the establishment of a global village. Thank you all.